cried the laughing thousands, and echo answered fraud. But one party from the godless, and the audience was awed. They saw his face grow stern and cold, and saw his apocalypse strain, and they knew that camping wouldn't let the end go by again. Oh, somewhere in this favored land, the sun is shining bright. The priest is preaching somewhere, and somewhere hearts are light. And somewhere we are laughing, and today here we point out. But there is no joy in Oakland. Mighty camping has struck out. This is Ask an Atheist, 253-584-1480. My name is Sam, and with me today is Bob. How you doing?
Good, thanks, Sam.
And new to the show, Joe. How you doing today?
I'm just great. Thanks for asking.
As you might have noticed from my vaguely poetic opening, today, actually the day before yesterday, was the third strike for Harold Camping.
And now I've got to pay all my credit card bills.
Yeah, pay all your credit card bills. Somehow get your house back. Yeah, figure out how you're going to eat for the next few months. And it's just, as you guys know, we used to have a segment called Countdown to Backpedaling on the show where we would talk about, this idea that the world was going to end on May 21st. But there was actually two dates. There was the May 21st date, and then there was the October 21st date, which was when the world was actually going to be physically destroyed. And
that was what I heard, too.
Yeah, and that was on Friday. And as a result, nothing happened, as you might have expected. And then Seattle Atheists, we actually got down, had a party, and watched the first Left Behind movie in sort of Mystery Science Theater 3000 style, and I had a great time.
On the tomorrow that wasn't supposed to be a tomorrow.
Exactly. And the check for Camp Quest Northwest was finally given over in enormous check style. It's the first one I've actually ever seen up close. Those enormous fake checks, I love those. And we had a great time. And now it's over.
A bit of a letdown, although at the same time, when you think about some of the things that people did for the first one, for May 21st,
yeah,
it's kind of a good thing that it really was not too big a story.
Yeah, and I went with Casey at the bat because this is Harold Camping's third sort of approach to the end of the world. He had one in 1994, which I think you know a bit about.
I do, yeah. I think you're right. 3 strikes and you're out.
Yeah, that's pretty much.
The one small thing in his favor is he says that it was his book was 1994 ?
Oh.
But he was not playing games with May 21st. He was saying, this is, no joke.
Yeah, I've listened to his show quite a few times, actually, and he very explicitly said, this is absolutely certain May 21st the world will end, or at least the rapture.
Right.
Absolutely
Just
certain.
no
There is no doubt. He said that over and over.
Last I checked, I'm still being hassled by Christians at my front door, so I think the rapture didn't occur. Harold Camping has since had a stroke. He's off the radio, and honestly, I think we're just sort of waiting for him to crawl in a hole at this point. I mean, it's we updated the We Can't Know website with a little conversation. Honestly, the day came and went, and I had completely forgotten about the countdown, because honestly, we were interested in dealing with the American Cancer Society and things about the continuation of life and happiness and not its end. So,
well, thankfully, I think this little episode is past. He's hopefully done duping his followers.
I think so too. I mean, a very important date is coming up in weirdness with 2012, and I know there's a million people who think something's going to happen then.
Winter solstice, 2012, I think it is.
And clearly, we'll still be here before and after to talk about it. So I think let's leave that on and move on. Now, there's something we like to do on the show, a little bit we do, usually with Mike, but he's not here today. It's called Scripture Says What, where we point out the interesting, the weird, the nonsensical of religious scriptures. And given the subject for today, we are actually quoting from the Bible. And this is from the Bible, Deuteronomy 22, 28 through 29. And it goes a bit like this. If a man happens to meet a virgin who is not pledged to be married, and rapes her and they are discovered, he shall pay her father 50 shekels of silver. He must marry the young woman, for he has violated her. He can never divorce her as long as he lives.
Scripture says what?
Wow.
Yeah, so that's Christian morality.
Yeah,
for
it turns rape into a property crime. Exactly. In the story, it makes clear who the injured party was. It was the father.
Right.
Father had some merchandise. He had like a donkey, like a used car. dude, man, I mean, how am I going to move this now? You know, you owe me.
Right.
That's the 50 shekels of silver.
Yeah, 50 shekels, that puts it on the same level as the violation of a city beautification project, as far as I know, like littering and stuff like that, or a parking ticket, as Scott mentioned earlier. And it really, this idea that if you go violate a woman, she's yours is sort of the Pokemon style of matrimony, if you will. You know, got to catch them all, or catch is a euphemism.
when your girlfriend doesn't return your affection,
right?
Here's your avenue.
Yeah,
just take this approach. Just rape her, pay the money. You'd have to pay a bride price anyway. So what the heck?
And it's interesting to point out that it's not just if you violate a woman. It's not if you rape a woman, but it's if you rape a woman and you are discovered. And the fact that God is apparently omnipresent and always watching over you doesn't enter into this. You have to be discovered by other people. It's
right.
So congratulations, Bible authors or inspirers. You just made a case for men to rape a woman women that they want to marry.
Yeah.
And imagine the life of this woman. I mean, she's going to be stuck with this rapist as her husband for the rest of her life.
Yeah, absolutely. This is the person you live with now. This is the person who has the power of life and death over you.
But here's the silver lining, which is made very clear here. The father's made whole. And that's actually going into this story. That's what I was concerned about.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty good with the story.
The father can go out and buy another daughter if he needs to. This is Ask an Atheist, 253-584-1480. And today we're talking about actually the morality without dogma is
very topical.
Very topical. So honestly, Bob, this is something you do. Is that you do like to debate other Christians and people from religions and talk about morality. And
I do. Yeah.
And so tell us about how they view morality and how they view our morality.
Well, it does seem like they don't really give this a lot of thought, but where they often come into this is from the idea of objective morality. Mm-hmm. And, I see the attractiveness. I mean, just the idea that for all these puzzling issues, abortion, euthanasia, when is war justified, that sort of thing,
right.
just to imagine that there's one place you can go where you get the absolute perfect answer. I mean, I like the idea. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean that it's true, but that's, of course, where they're coming from.
It's sort of like the encyclopedia when you're a kid, is if you need the absolute answer to something, you always consult the encyclopedia.
Right, two kids, no, it's this, no, it's that. You look it up. It's sort of like a sports bet. I mean, you Guinness Book of Records, we find the actual answer.
Yeah.
But actually, if I could just jump into this, one thing that we probably should talk begin with is the idea of objective.
Okay.
And one popular apologist, William Lane Craig, he defines objective truth as truths that are binding and valid whether anyone believes them or not.
Right.
So that's the basic idea. And they're not saying this literally, but it's like you had a big book of morals in God's library. Mm-hmm. And that's where everything is written. Is abortion right or wrong? You just go there, you consult it, there's your answer.
Yeah.
So that's what they're saying. And I'm just left scratching my head. I mean, I see the value, but where are these objective morals? I mean, you look, if you look back at Western history, slavery was completely okay in the Bible.
Right. So I would like to point out that we do have an empty chair here for William Lane Craig. And if he would like to come down to KLAY Studios in Lakewood, Washington, and debate us about the subject of morality, he is certainly welcome to. And I would also like to point out that if he doesn't show up today, this will show the objective truth of every word uttered here.
I think so, and also the emptiness of all of his arguments.
Exactly.
QED. There we go.
Here we are.
Yeah. which I mean, and that is the argument that he's using, by the way, in his tour right now in the UK. He's got this empty chair for Richard Dawkins.
Right.
So let's play that game.
Sure. So, this is something that I had a lot of problem with going on, and we'll talk about this a little bit later in the hour, but I think the concept of objective morality may actually exist. But the problem I'm coming up with is that my concept of objective is that there's really just a word issue here. Is that when I say objective, I mean something that's based in evidence, based in reality, that causes us to have these rules. But what they're saying is stuff handed down from on high from President of the Universe, right?
There we go. Exactly. There's a supernatural. There's an absolute component. I mean, going down that approach, my car is yellow. And if you disagree with me, if you're confused about that, come on out in the parking lot. I'll show you my car. It's yellow. I can show you my deed of sale. So that kind of thing we could say is an objective truth.
Right.
And that's where they're going for. But they're more into the absolute from God, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. So Bob, you can show me your yellow car, but if you're a Christian, where do I see the book of objective morals from God.
Exactly right, and they're talking about things like abortion is objectively wrong. Mm-hmm. Okay, you made a statement, you made an assertion. Now back it up.
Right.
I mean, and that's where they stop. I tell you what I find fascinating is I'll listen to a debate with William Lane Craig, and he'll say we all know that some things are just wrong. So this is a quote, just wrong, and he'll talk about rape or genocide or the Holocaust or whatever.
Sure.
And I agree that's wrong, but just wrong from his standpoint
the Bible doesn't though.
Exactly. that kind of undercuts his argument. That's very true. But he'll sort of try to get this commonality. We all agree things are just wrong. That's right, but that doesn't mean that it's absolute or supernatural or whatever.
Right. This is Ask an Atheist 253-584-1480. So how do Christians talk about atheist morality? I mean, how do they compare what they do to what we do?
Well, one thing that I find, again, sort of baffling is they sort of seem to imagine that atheists have a license to just, rampage and axe murder and rape and whatever. And if they didn't have the Bible governing their lives, they'd be doing the same thing.
Right, yeah.
Of course, you sort of have to say, well, wait a minute, atheists are not doing that, and the prisons aren't full of atheists, and that whole argument, kind of falls apart.
The closest I've ever gotten to being glad for religion is when some really scary dude comes up to me and says, if I didn't have Christianity, I would go out and murder everybody. And I'm like, you should stay Christian.
Yes, definitely.
That's not really an argument for Christianity. That's an argument against his insanity. It's weird. A lot of people say that means you like Christianity. No, it doesn't. It means I don't want this guy to kill people.
Right. If the guy's that unstable and removing this brick of his foundation, Christianity, would set him off, then all right, fine.
Yeah.
Leave him alone.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, maybe he needs to get some help. But in America, it's kind of hard to force people to get that sort of help. So.
And they sort of seem to imagine that you've got an atheist on a meth fueled rampage, driving through the city and wrecking cars, and the cops finally catch up with this guy and say, out of the car, sir. Oh, I'm sorry. You're an atheist? Oh, well.
Keep going.
Have a good day, sir. Sorry to bother you. It doesn't work that way. I mean, atheists answer to the police. Atheists answer to each other, to society. They have, friends and family that they rely on their trust.
Sure. So, I hate to say that, we need to start a conversation about atheist morality by sort of disabusing people of moral notions in Christianity. But we are in America. While it's not a Christian nation, we do live in a Christian substrate. And this is part of what you do. You actually talk to people and sort of say why the religious concepts of morality don't work. So why don't you get into a little bit of that argument for us?
I will. They talk about Christianity as being this sterling example of where morals come from. They talk about all the good things of people in the West, all the philosophers and scientists and whatever, kind of ignoring the fact that pretty much everybody in the West in the 1600s, during the time of Newton and whatever, was a Christian. You couldn't really, be anything otherwise. So that kind of correlation is kind of meaningless.
Right.
But they're building this on the Bible, and that's the thing that I find just baffling. I mean, you guys have read the Bible, right? I mean, we had the quote that you started off with, and I've got just a couple of kind of greatest hits here also that I'm thinking
by all means,
you guys really need to go back and read this with a little bit of a open mind. Here's what God commands about the cities that refuse to submit to the Israelites. Here it is. Completely destroy them, the Hittites, Amorites, Canaanites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites, as the Lord your God has commanded you. Now, if you look at the general context of the Pentateuch, the first 5 books of the Bible, we're talking about 10 million people.
Yeah.
There are estimates of, there are other reasons to understand how big this group is.
10 million people when there weren't 7 billion people. So even by just mathematical number, by proportion of the human population, we're talking
insane.
About significant atrocity here. Genocide on a huge scale.
Let's just imagine that this is historically accurate. We're talking about the biggest genocide ever.
Right.
Ordered by God.
Yeah, right. This is the compassionate, merciful God of the universe. Now, of course, if you do see this as you approach the Bible from an anthropological standpoint, God was the God of the Jews, and different gods had their the Jews at the time
Right.
recognized the existence of other gods. They had their own people, and God was just, the big brother of these guys. And then there's another kind of great. It says, this is from 1 Samuel. This is what God tells the Israelites about the Amalekites. Attack the Amalekites and totally destroy all that belongs to them. Do not spare them. Put to death men and women, children and infants.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, what did the infants do to deserve to die? Come on.
I thought injuring babies and consuming their flesh was our bag. I thought that's what people said about us. But no, apparently it's biblical as well. Jeez. And for the record, we don't eat babies. But, sometimes you just need to put that out
not
there.
raw, but...
Not raw.
Yeah, there we go.
Your Christian apologist, William Lane Craig, actually defends murdering children. Did you know that?
Oh, it's crazy.
Wait, what?
I've got it right here. I just listened to this. William Lane Craig was talking about a couple people he's either debated or heard of, like Sam Harris, and somebody asked him, well, Craig, since God is not bound by the same moral duties, then what about people? Well,
Right.
He says, well, people are bound by the morals that God orders them, or the orders that God gives men. That makes it moral.
Right.
So if God orders you to kill children, such as the Canaanites, then it's perfectly acceptable. It is your moral duty to do so. And that is right from William Lane Craig.
So just because God said so, with no fact-checking or verification of the message, people can go out and kill kids.
According to William Lane Craig.
This is what Christianity can drive you to do. Christianity can drive you to defend this kind of insanity. If you come at the Bible assuming that it's all correct, it's all God-supported, that kind of thing, this is what it'll lead you to do. It's crazy.
Wow. All right. If you'd like to talk to us about morality, Christian, atheist, or otherwise, you can give us a call at 253-584-1480. This is Ask an Atheist. Again, we're talking about morality with Bob and Joe, and we'll be back in a moment.
Tacoma Telematics wants to help you connect with your clients. We can give you a top-notch web presence. Tacoma Telematics can take your website to the next level and make it an essential part of your business marketing, but that's not all. Want VoIP? We've got it, bringing large corporation phone systems capability at mom-and-pop prices. We build intuitive interfaces to help you manage your resources quickly and efficiently. Take advantage of our holistic approach to make your business communications succeed effortlessly. At Tacoma Telematics, we're committed to personal and professional integrity, open communication, and long-term relationships. See us at TacomaTelematics.com.
Secular humanism is a non-theistic view of the universe built on a foundation of reason, science, and democracy. Humanists support intellectual freedom and critical thinking, and we hold that human beings are autonomous centers of moral development. The Humanists of Washington is the oldest humanist organization in the state and offers a community of free thinkers who educate the public and celebrate life. For information on how you can be a part of the humanist activities in the Puget Sound area, become a member of the Humanists of Washington today. Visit humanistofwashington.org.
Sigmund Freud said the voice of the intellect is a soft one, but it does not rest until it has gained a hearing. Whether you're at a point in life where you are questioning your beliefs, or if you've always been an atheist or agnostic, the Auburn Free Thought Society is a place where your own voice of intellect will be heard. You'll interact with like-minded people, engage in intellectual conversation, and share your experiences with others in the Auburn, Washington area. At Auburn Free Thought Society, we encourage critical thought and reason. For details, find us on Facebook and on meetup.com. Auburn Free Thought Society. Have real discussion and share real ideas freely.
If you enjoy the programming we create here on Ask an Atheist, please make a contribution with us. Your sponsorship helps keep our show on the air and improve the quality of our broadcasts. Donors get access to exclusive Ask an Atheist content. Don't make us beg. Please go to askanatheist.tv and contribute today.
This is Ask an Atheist, 253-584-1480, and we are talking about morality without dogma. And before we can talk about morality without dogma, really we do have to talk about morality with dogma. And Bob was letting us know about some of the weird things that people suggest their morality is defined by. So you had one more you really wanted to get into.
I did. I just got to get out this other one in sort of in the greatest hits. This is what Moses tells the Israelites about the Midianites. He says that they must kill them all, with one exception. So here's a little ray of sunshine here.
Right.
Now kill all the boys, and kill every woman who has slept with a man, but save for yourselves every girl who has never slept with a man. Now, one possibility is they're going to be keeping these girls as pets.
Okay.
Now, I'm thinking that's unlikely. I'm guessing sex slaves, but that's just me.
Or they just dig lesbians, maybe. Yeah.
Maybe so, but I mean, here again, just in terms going back to your opening Bible verse, you've got young women who've seen their family being slaughtered,
right.
and they've got to marry the murderers of their family.
Yeah.
Or become concubines too.
Imagine that honeymoon.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Wow. And then of course you know about the whole slavery thing. I mean,
right.
Slavery wasn't prohibited in the Bible. It was so much a part of just everyday practice that it was regulated. God said you need to have accurate weights and measures. You know, if you pour out a cup of grain, it needs to be an accurate cup. Don't shortchange people. That's a rule.
Right.
And also, if you're going to have slaves, we have rules for how to treat fellow Israelites as slaves, rules for how to sell your daughter in a slave. Which, that's an important one to know.
Sure.
Beatings can be too harsh or not. We got to have just the right beatings. That we have rules about that also.
Well, hey, the Southern Baptist Convention probably agreed with you until the late 19th century. They didn't even publicly apologize for their pro-slavery stance until 1995.
1995? Wow, that's Catholic Church level of ignorance. Wow. Okay.
I actually have heard the Southern Baptist Convention is trying to get a new name.
Oh.
Because just the Southern is kind of cramping that style, and I think my own feeling is it harkens back to that convention where they said no, we are in favor of slavery. It
right.
says so in the Bible. We're supporting it. As you mentioned before, the Civil War.
Yeah.
Well, you're saying is there were, and then there were people in the North who were using the Bible to deny slavery, to say that slavery
right.
is not immoral. But then
right.
there are people in the South using the same book. They're just quoting from different parts of it. Although sometimes they're quoting from the same parts of it, saying, yeah, it says that they're for slavery, they're against slavery.
Right.
There is a lot of ambiguity there.
There is, but at the same time, if you want to find the better case, the stronger case, the Southern preachers had the better case.
Oh, did they?
In terms of making an argument for slavery. I mean, it's in the Bible. I mean, it's the Jews enslaved the Gibeonites. The issue about slavery in the Bible is don't enslave us.
Right.
It would really be a bad thing if you enslaved us. Well, I understand
Don't
that.
enslave the chosen people.
But for them enslaving other people, not a problem.
Sure. Yeah, don't enslave me. Everybody asks that. That's pandemic to civilization. But I guess logically that makes a certain amount of sense because the Bible can say that slavery is a bad idea, it's immoral, and you shouldn't do it. But then if it spends 50 or 60 pages outlining paragraphs and statutes of slavery,
right.
it sort of undermines that argument.
It really does. And one of the Christian arguments is, well, slavery in the Bible is not quite the same as slavery in the South as in Uncle Tom's Cabin and whatever. And I'm thinking, that's your argument?
Right.
I mean, that's the best you can do, that slavery was not so bad?
And
come on.
And the other thing is, all of this idea that slavery in the South in America in the 19th century wasn't so bad has been thoroughly debunked. It was as terrible as you could think. I mean, it was atrocious in every sense of the word.
And it is the logical conclusion from where these people are going is, so if slavery in the Bible is not so bad, so you're okay with that.
Yeah.
You're okay with having that kind of slavery in America. Well, of course you're not.
Right.
That's just insanity.
Yeah, the next question is, all right, how much for you as a slave? If you think it's not so bad, how much would I have to pay? It's just this slippery slope almost always leads to ridiculous arguments, but
right.
sometimes the ridiculous arguments need to be voiced to show how ridiculous the thing is.
There you go.
All right. But, you did say there's a lot of ambiguity here, but almost never on the side of what morality, the sort of morality we live with today, right?
That's right. And you look at the Ten Commandments, this sterling example of what moral should be. The last commandment is do not covet.
Right.
Okay, well, whatever. I guess coveting is kind of a bad thing. But in there is not do not rape. There is not no slavery. There's not all the things that we think of as being so essential. Christopher Hitchens had just cut through this really well. He said the reason that's the case is because those were going to be tools. Once they got into Canaan, they were going to use those as tools to enslave, destroy.
I've listened to a lot of Christopher Hitchens, and still he makes me go wow occasionally. Yeah,
it's just a great insight.
Yeah, it's incredibly insightful. So. So moving on, so one of the things that we were talking about is the idea of morality being sort of the domain of Christianity, mm-hmm. and that's clearly not the case, is it?
Right. Now, what they'll say is, okay, we acknowledge. Typically, they'll say we acknowledge that atheists can be moral and whatever, mm-hmm. but that's because God has written correct morals on your heart.
Right.
And of course, to that I say, well, show me. I mean, you could it's easy to make up a story like that, but I need some evidence. But they. I'm
actually wondering, did God write morals on atheists' hearts a little bit more clearly than he did on Christians? Because it seems like I find atheists agree a lot more often than I do Christians. I mean, you got thousands of different denominations in Christianity, and they hardly agree on anything.
Fred Phelps.
Yeah.
Jim Jones.
There's an argument there is that we're still, if it's written on people's hearts, then and we're following it, it just goes nuts. So
one thing which I think is important to notice is when you look at how Christians deal with morality.
Right.
When they look through the Bible, they will make the same analysis that you or I would. Mm-hmm. They will look at slavery and say, forget that. They will look at, shellfish and prohibitions against, certain kinds of clothing and say that's nonsense.
Right.
They will celebrate sacrifice, the prodigal son story, that kind of stuff. They make the same kind of analysis that we do. And here's the problem. They are beating the Bible against the anvil of their morals, not the other way around.
Right.
Instead of saying, hey, if the Bible's kind of nutty, if I don't get it, I'm sorry, I'm a Christian. I just got to follow it. They don't do it that way.
Well, they do tend to cherry pick, though. I mean, because the thing is that clearly nobody's following Deuteronomy 22, 28, and 29 here. I'm not seeing this implemented anywhere in the United States. However, everybody in one branch of Christianity loves to point out the rules for the supposed rules for homosexuality, and they say that is absolute, that is God's word, because that is, there is no refutation against that. But apparently, there's a refutation against this as well.
Yeah, here's what I want to see. I want to see a Christian who says, when I think about the gay marriage thing, it doesn't affect me at all. I'm married, doesn't affect me at all. But, hey, my hands are tied.
Right,
the Bible says that. I'm just going to have to go with it. Nobody says that. Everybody is the Bible that they imagine, with the Christianity they imagine, is pretty much in sync with their own personal ideas. The Bible is a mirror, and they see themselves in it.
Sure. There's a Susan B. Anthony quote that's coming to mind that I can't actually remember the words to, that Seattle Atheist used.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Go look it up and let us know. If you'd like to tell us what it is, you can go to askanatheist.tv and click on the shiny red button and let us know. Or you can give us a call at 253-584-1480.
Actually, I think I got that quote right here.
Oh, do you now?
Yeah. Susan B. Anthony said, I distrust those people who know so well what God wants them to do, because I notice it always coincides with their own desires.
How convenient.
Very nice. And perhaps with some discussion of that, we have a call. This is Ruth Ann in Lakewood, and she'd like to talk about justifying morality through Hebrew Scripture. How are you today?
I'm fine, and your theme is starting to sound like a corporate slogan, better morality through dogma. And my example that I have is all those land deals that were done in the name of, because God told me so. People who say this land is mine because God gave this land to me.
Right.
I want to shout at him. Yes, but there is no God, so what's your second best?
There you go. Nice.
And then you have competing gods with competing land claims.
This God says this, that God says this opposing thing. What do we do with that?
And we all know it's the right to take over your neighbor's house and to kill his crops and cut down his orchards. In
the name of God. There you go.
Yep. Thanks a lot.
Well defined. All right. Thank you very much, Ruth. Wow. Yeah, I mean that comes up and this is especially clear in the Middle East with Israel and the Palestinian thing, is that everybody seems to think that their God has laid claim to this land, and they have these, from their morality and from their perspective, these extensive land claims that come to them from President of the Universe that say they own this land, but now they're talking to two different presidents of two apparently different universes.
Right.
And it just gets weird. And my thing is, why couldn't they have picked the moon as the promised land? Because then, there would be religious infighting, but then also a space race. So if you have any idea how to make that happen, I'd like to talk to you about that. This is Ask an Atheist, 253-584-1480. So I think we've done really well talking about sort of Christian morality in America and how it doesn't make a lot of sense. And you started to get into it about how you said people use the Bible and bang it against the anvil of their morality. It's really they're justifying the Bible through their morality rather than the other way around.
Exactly. You would think that a consistent Christian would say the Bible says what the Bible says. It's infallible. My hands are tied. I've got to follow what the Bible says. And yet they cherry pick, as you mentioned.
Right.
And they sound like any sensible person in the 21st century.
Sure.
And good thing. So good thing that they're not consistent. But you would think that they would understand this inconsistency.
Sure. Yep. Now, let's say you take away the Bible and you're not banging anything against the anvil of your morality. How does this look for atheists? What is morality like for us?
Yeah, my own view, and I'm not sure that atheists or secular humanists or whatever have a consistent view. But let me just toss out my approach. Is I see morals, human morals, coming from two places. One is an instinct or something that evolution put into us. This is at the visceral level. This is programming. This
right.
is our firmware. And to me, it's not a whole lot more than the golden rule. It's when something bad happens, and I just have this instant feeling that's a bad thing or that's a good thing, or someone's in danger. I need to I don't think about it. I just put myself in danger to save them. That is instinctive.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that my concept of quote unquote objective morality, though when I say objective morality, clearly I've discovered I don't mean the same thing as Christians do, is we are biological creatures. We are subject to, well, not even creatures, we are biological organisms. I keep forgetting that creature actually means created, so I try not to use that because that's not what I mean. All right? We are biological organisms. We have to eat. We have to excrete. If we want
reproduce.
to reproduce, we all have basically the same drives because we're all basically from the same stuff.
We're all the same species.
We're all the same species, but even across species, some of this is true. And that does lead to sort of a rule set if you want to get along with everybody, because we are social creatures. We're not eusocial. We don't have biological dependencies upon our social requirements. However, civilization and the fact that we form basically tribal organisms, we're social creatures. And when you have these biological drives plus a desire to socialize, that generally suggests a certain sort of rule set that isn't going to be in place and looks a lot like the golden rule. And as long as we remain biological creatures, and as long as we remain this sort of way, a lot of our morality is going to be influenced by this idea. It's not immutable, but it is objective.
And it's very easy to imagine evolution encouraging this in some social animals. You have bears that are not social. They get together to mate, and that's about it. They're very solitary.
Right.
But in lots of animals, they are social creatures. And you can very easily imagine a tribe that has altruistic kind of motives more than another tribe is going to survive better.
Sure.
I can leave my stuff around. It's not going to get stolen, as opposed to the other tribe. I just got to watch my stuff. They have no concern about the golden rule. They'll take things as it makes their lives easier.
But this idea that I'm putting forth, I'm not suggesting I've done studies on it. This is just something that just seems emergent to me that maybe someday I'd like to do some actual work on. And I'm really interested in sort of what the atheist response to that is. And I actually think it's kind of close to the same thing that Sam Harris says when he believes in objective morality, because that's something he got a lot of heat for, is when he said there might actually be an objective morality, and he got the fist up.
And as you mentioned, the real trick there is to define the word objective.
Right.
What do you mean by that? And probably supernaturally sourced is not what Sam Harris has in mind.
I would assume not. It's a bit weird. I kind of have to go on that as he talks about objective morality. I think he's talked a little bit about reclaiming the word spiritual a little bit, but it's not, and he gets a lot of heat for that, but it's not for the supernatural aspects of it that I think he's doing this. And that's something I think sometimes we have to keep in mind. I don't know.
Just have to make sure we're using the same words.
But that's an aside. So one thing that I know this brings it a little bit back into the Christianity thing, but one thing that Christians say a lot about us is that we're basically stealing their morality. I find that a little hard to believe. How do you respond to that when people say that?
My approach is I see it the other way around. That the sketch that I have in my own mind about where my morals come from, this is not just where atheists get their morals. This is where people get their morals. And you can fool yourself. Oh no, I'm actually getting it from a book written by people who had morals the same as mine, and I can cherry pick things that fit with mine. It doesn't work that way. I mean, I think a much more scientific approach is to find the commonality and see that it's much more like the sketch that we.
My take is we share. I don't follow me on this or not, but I think we share Western morality. We both the Christians and the atheists are basically taking it from the same source. I'm not suggesting that morality isn't inherited. We're social. There are generations of humans where we're social creatures. We're going to learn from our predecessors, and we're going to pick up some of that morality because we were raised by them. But in that respect, the Christians didn't invent this morality that they exhibit. They got this morality kind of from the Romans and the Hebrews and stuff like that, and they got it from the Romans got it from the Etruscans and the Greeks, and the Greeks got it from their surrounding places, and the Egyptians, and then there's the Persians, and all of these groups, most of whom weren't Christian, as you point out, still have very vaguely similar morality.
Right. Yep.
So where is ultimately the source of this? Is it just something that we've all sort of decided on, sort of organically as time goes on?
I think it's the core, the fundamental layer is just this instinctive approach. And in fact, you see this in animals. There's a great study of capuchin monkeys where they had open cages. The researcher went to one monkey, asked him to do a task, gave him a piece of cucumber as a reward, went to another and for the same task, gave him a grape. Right. And the first one, apparently in monkey calculus, grapes are better than cucumbers. So the second monkey squawks about this. He goes back to the first monkey, asks him to do the same task. He does it. He gives him the cucumber again, and the monkey throws it at him. It's a sense of fairness. The guy is saying, dude, that is not fair. I saw what you did to the other monkey. He didn't express that in words, but that's what he's saying. So we see in monkeys the same kind of something that if in you and I, we would call morality.
Sure. Oh,
and it's an instinct that we share with the other primates.
All right, this is a little surprising because I said before that because we're all biological creatures, we have sort of the same drives, and it might even work across species. And here we go. I mean, we're very related.
We've got the evidence.
Yeah.
I mean, I've even heard a researcher who studies morality in monkeys say that really monkeys there's a lot of similarities. I would just say that monkeys are kind of like DOS 3.1, and humans are maybe Windows. They have a morality, and it's just maybe not quite as advanced as ours. But
right. Well, speak for yourself. I run Linux. This is Ask an Atheist, 253-584-1480. We're talking about morality without dogma, and you can give us a call, but we're going to go into a break, and we'll talk to you in a minute.
Billy, I'm a certified ghost expert.
Wow, that's so credible.
Billy, your great-great-grandmother says she loves you, and to give me your lunch money.
Aw, anything for family. Here you go.
Wait, Billy. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Come to Camp Quest Northwest, where you'll learn critical thinking and science in a fun-filled week-long nature camp.
No!
Camp Quest Northwest can be found at campquestnorthwest.org. Donations and volunteers accepted. The devil is not real.
I know.
Did you know that not a single psychic or paranormal event has ever been reproduced?
Have you ever wondered about the effectiveness of faith healing, Reiki, or sports bracelets?
Was 9/11 an inside job, or is that all just another unproven conspiracy theory?
Come check out the Seattle Skeptics, a group focused on lively debates and a critical examination of pseudoscience, alternative medicine, and anything else that hasn't held up to the light of the scientific method.
Seattle Skeptics was created for those who require a higher bar of evidence than gut feelings or blind belief.
We're not contrarians or cynics, we just want to see the evidence.
And so should you.
Check us out at seattleskeptics.org.
That's seattleskeptics.org.
If you long to escape the religious bias on your television, if you love scientific shows, if you think that funny and thought-provoking are not mutually exclusive, then we'd like to welcome you to a network made with you in mind. Secular Video Network is an online source for free thinking programs. We feature a range of videos from Mr. Dede, The Thinking Atheist, and Richard Dawkins. While watching, you can participate in our live chat for engaging discussions. There is no cost, there is no proselytizing, just non-stop thought-provoking shows. So visit us at secularvideonetwork.com.
Join us after today's show at the Office Bar and Grill in downtown Tacoma. Offering a wide selection of tap and bottled beer, a full bar of your favorite liquor, and a taste bud tantalizing menu, come on down and shoot the breeze with the Ask an Atheist crew. Who can argue with your motives? After all, you're at the office. The Office Bar and Grill is at 813 Pacific Avenue in Tacoma.
You can advertise on Ask an Atheist on the radio, on our website, and in our podcast. People just like you who have the same interests are listening right now, just like you are, and thousands will download this podcast and listen to it later. If you have a product, service, or idea to sell, people here in the Pacific Northwest and people around the world, thousands will hear your message. Let us help you sell your product, service, or idea. Contact us at advertising@askanatheist.tv. That's advertising at askanatheist.tv.
Welcome back. This is Ask an Atheist, 253-584-1480 on KLAY 1180 AM here in Tacoma. And we were talking a little bit about the
software.
Something we know a little bit about. So,
yeah, Joe, you raised a great point about how you could see the big brains that humans have kind of extends the morality that we see in other primates. One thing that I'll notice, Christians like to make a big deal about that. We're so much better than other animals, and yet that big brain has two sides. It's a double-edged sword. Yes, we're more compassionate. The love and that kind of thing. That the good side of the morality, we definitely have more of that. We also have a lot more of the bad side: greed, revenge, resentment, hate, lust, bitterness,
genocide.
Genocide, absolutely.
I've never heard about monkeys committing genocide.
Yeah, people try to talk about, we shouldn't act like animals. An atheist is going to see us as animals. I mean, if we did more acting like animals, that might actually be a good thing. There is no equivalent of the Holocaust in the animal kingdom.
I might have kind of misspoke. Maybe I shouldn't have said that human morality is more advanced, but maybe more complex.
Sure. And
other animals.
This brings up a thing. Every time we talk about morality and atheism, religious people like to bring up a bunch of guys. And you have some list here. Let's just head this off at the pass. So.
Yeah, Stalin was a bad man. Stalin was an atheist. Therefore, atheists are bad. That kind of thinking. I mean, for starters, atheism is simply the answer to the question: do you believe there's a God? Mm-hmm. No, I don't have that belief. That's it. That's all it says. Right. I mean, you can't imply anything else about my morals or whatever. Then you have things like secular humanist and those kind of things where you do try to talk about someone who doesn't have a spiritual basis for their morality, but they try to get it from reason, from rational means.
Yeah.
So let me just address this. I mean, this Stalin thing or Mao or Pol Pot or whatever is the same kind of thing as saying, well, Hitler was a vegetarian, which is true, by the way. Hitler was a bad man, therefore vegetarianism is just leads you down the path to evil. I mean, sure. it's very clear. Stalin saw religion as a competitor. And the reason he was a bad man was because he was a dictator. That's the problem. A crazy dictator, those people can cause problems, and he got rid of the Christians just like he got rid of lots of people.
This is specifically why I wanted to call this episode not Morality Without Religion, but Morality Without Dogma. Is the interesting thing about Stalin, and what really just makes the case, is I do not dodge the fact that Stalin was an atheist. Stalin was an atheist. I am an atheist. I have something in common with him. Okay, fine. Moving on, however, atheism for Joseph Stalin was a tenet of his dogma, of part of the communist dialectic in Russia at the time, that in order to be a communist, in order to follow this dialectic, you had to be an atheist and you had to deny God in a strict Marxist sense. And that dogma... sometimes I say religion is the armor that dogma wears. Sometimes religion really isn't my problem. The unthinking dogma, the thing which must always be true no matter the evidence.
And you can't question it.
That's the scary thing for me.
Mm-hmm. Yep, great point.
So, and so what other people do you get often that they bring up?
Yeah, Mao, Pol Pot. Pol Pot did the killing fields in Cambodia.
Sure, yeah.
That sort of thing. And again, if they see religion as a competitor, yeah, they're gonna shut it down. But it's not like, what caused what? Let's be clear on the cause and effect. They're a dictator. They're a bad person. Therefore, both. They shut down Christianity, they shut down religion, and they have genocide and that kind of stuff. That's the cause and effect, as opposed to they're an atheist, therefore a bad thing happens. You can say, in the name of God, I do this. I'm gonna die in the name of God, or not that happens very often, but that's a possibility.
Sure.
You can't go to the atheist book of something and say, because it says this, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist.
In my case, and I know in the case of a lot of other people, it really is, it's sort of like the Hippocratic Oath, do no harm, or really
do no harm. Right.
First do no harm, or do as little harm as possible, or something like that. And, my decisions are based off of that. What is going to help people, what is going to hurt people, and when I go through the moral process in my head, that's where I start. I don't know.
It's really pretty simple.
I don't know how I decided to start from trying not to hurt people, but it seems pretty natural to me.
It does. I mean, from my standpoint, I see it as being instinctive.
Yeah.
And you know what I really like, you guys, is if you make a moral argument and I don't agree, I can argue with you. I can disagree and we can debate
exactly.
it. Can I debate a Christian who says that homosexuality is the homosexual lifestyle is a sin because the Bible says so?
Yeah.
No, I can't argue with him on that because hey, he won't argue about it because the Bible says so.
The reality of this situation is we can and we do debate with Christians about homosexuality. But the fact of the matter is when we talk about morality, and I think, and somebody thinks I have a moral issue, that there's something I'm not moral on, you're right. We can talk about it. And we admit that we talk about it, and we admit that our morality is a process. It's not a syntax. It's not a set of rules set down from on high. It's something that it's a process that we're going through that tries to be fair for everybody, be egalitarian as possible. And when we make a mistake, we can sit down and talk about it because there is none of that dogmatic basis. We can actually have that conversation, and we don't have to pretend that we're giving lip service to somebody who gave us a strict rule set.
In any case like that, you're going to have your own ego in the way. You're going to. It's difficult for all of us imperfect people to change. But one thing you don't have is you don't have accept this Bible thing.
Right.
I'm going to. Pastor Jones said this is the case. I can't go against him or whatever. Ego is bad enough, but you can change that.
Yeah.
So let's just minimize the obstacles we have to improving ourselves, to perfecting ourselves.
Yeah. Now, I'm not surprised, but when we start talking about slavery and stuff like that, and just sort of the problems that religion has with this, eventually we're going to have a conversation. Somebody's going to want to talk to us about this, and we've got our friend Charles back in Illinois, and he wants to talk about female slaves in the Bible. How are you doing today?
Hey, you still there?
Yeah, still here.
Good. Yeah, I heard a big psh. Yeah, I recall reading, I'm not certain if it's accurate or not, that if a man owns a female slave and she becomes pregnant by him, he can punch her in the lower stomach, causing her to lose the fetus, unborn child, but he has done no wrong, for she is not free.
Okay. So
now, I'm not certain about that, but
do you know anything about this?
I haven't heard that. That's interesting. That does not ring a bell.
I'm not certain if it's true or not.
All right.
But
and of course, what complicates this? Sorry to interrupt, but what complicates this is you have other holy books. Does it say it in any sort of commentary in the Quran, in those kind of books? And maybe that's something you heard.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm not certain where it was. Also, I wanted to share with you the fact that your rivals in Texas, Matt Dillahunty, is getting married today.
Yes, he is. Thank you for reminding me. Yeah.
Yeah, please ensure that everybody knows that her and Beth Prestwood is her name, and let everybody have her the best.
Yeah, okay. We should.
Follows, well, the original sequence follows much in line of way they treated the women in the Bronze Age Judea.
Yeah. It does sort of fit in line, but Charles, we're going to have to move on. Thanks for calling, and hope to talk to you again. We do have to say, first off, congratulations, Matt and Beth. They're not rivals. They are not our rivals. They're not our competition.
They're inspiration.
They're inspiration, and they're friends. So, congratulations. Have a great life. Continue having a great life, I guess is the best way to put that. If somebody knows about this thing that Charles is talking about, which might possibly be biblical evidence for abortion, I'd like to know about it.
Yeah, I haven't heard that. But that's interesting.
I haven't heard either.
Yeah, without having, without being able to chapter and verse it, there's not a lot that I can really say about it. And we got one more call. This is 13 Heathens in Texas. I think we've talked before, and you want to talk about not just the 10 Commandments, but the 603 other ones. How's that going?
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good.
Actually, before I do say anything regarding that, I have to do a correction to what Charles just said.
Go for it.
If two men are fighting and a bearing child is struck and the fetus is lost, then in terms of the law, it's basically a non-entity as long as the woman isn't hurt.
It's a property crime in that case.
Yes, exactly. A property crime. There's no punishment for the actual destruction of the unborn child, only if the woman is injured in the process.
I have heard that, yeah.
Okay.
I've heard some Christians actually are pro-abortion. So maybe that's one of the verses they use in the Bible to justify that stance.
I don't know. If you go through the Bible, the pro-abortion stance should be for anyone who's not Christian. But
yeah.
That's a little bit of an aside. But yeah, as opposed to the actual 10 Commandments that are often referenced, there's actually a total of 613, which you guys probably know that more than the average Christian.
Becky loves to point that out.
But in addition to that, some of the things that are listed in there are hilarious in light of this whole claim that, you're trying to get your morality from us, and this whole Judeo-Christian nation nonsense.
Well, as long as you don't boil a kid in its mother's milk, which is the actual 10th commandment,
right?
I figure you're good. I mean, you got that one. Everything else just rolls downhill.
A lot of my culinary ideas are out the window with that 10th commandment, I have to admit. But, yeah, all right, whatever, I suppose. But Becky loves to point out where somebody says 10 commandments, and Becky's like, which 10? I mean, I've got a ton of them. And
Exodus 34 is the second set after Moses broke the first set. This is the second set. That's the official set.
Yeah.
And that's the one that's got this all kinds of nutty stuff, including don't boil a kid in its mother's milk.
If you wanted to build a set of rules or something that you could use that were completely cherry-pickable, that you could just pick whatever set you wanted and justify anything, it'd be hard to do worse than the Bible.
I've actually called in with my cherry pick today.
Oh, you did you?
Yes, the first one is to establish 6 cities of refuge for those who have committed accidental homicide.
Oh,
right, I remember that one, yeah.
Nice.
That one who has raped a damsel and has then, in accordance to the law, married her may not divorce her.
Wow, okay.
Not to borrow or lend on interest, because this would cause the lender to sin.
I've actually met a lot of people who love talking about how interest is Satan. Not like interest is Satan. That interest gets Satan into your money somehow. It's an interesting concept.
Not only to lend it to a poor person, but to not demand from a poor man repayment of his debt when the creditor knows he cannot pay. Or press him.
All right.
Topical today.
Definitely topical today. All right, go ahead.
Last one, and my very favorite. This is from the forbidden sexual relations section, I must add.
All right.
Not to castrate the male of any species, neither man nor domestic or wild beast or fowl.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you very much, 13.
Glad you really laugh. Have a good one.
You too.
Thanks.
You can prove anything, I guess. And, I suppose we wanted to talk a little bit about where we get our morality from, but it's such, it's not difficult to figure out where we get our morality from. Essentially, it's the same place everybody gets their morality.
I agree. In fact, if I could just sort of clarify the distinction that I see here, the Christians say that we have universal moral truths. Mm-hmm. Now, I think the atheist is going to say we have universally held moral instincts.
Right.
That is universal moral truths that is coming from God, and universally held moral instincts, natural. We understand how evolution works. That explains it very well.
Yeah.
So I think that's the confusing thing. When you see something bad and everyone agrees with it, they have this strong visceral reaction. One explanation, is that it came from God, or it could just be part of your programming. It explains it just fine.
We're complex neurological systems. There's going to be some stuff that might arise, and that might be where this comes from. But one thing we like to say on the show is we're getting our morality from the same place that Christians get their morality from. So Christians in America. And they're clearly, as we've shown today, the Bible is filled with stuff that any American who is not nuts is going to think is immoral, which just goes to show that really Christians are more moral than their Bible. They are
more moral than their God.
More moral than their God. Your average Christian is superior to their holy book, as far as I'm concerned. And I thank you for that, and that's great, and that shows just the kind of progress that we can have in society, and just sort of how civilization and everybody with everybody participating and getting rid of the slavery stuff as much as we can, and going for a real egalitarian civilization. Is that really ultimately that seems to be what people are going for? And
wouldn't it be nice if they realize that they realize that the crutch they're standing on is their own two legs?
Yeah,
they are. All this good morals, all their good actions are coming from them.
Yeah,
they have themselves to thank for that.
In the right context, that could be incredibly empowering. That you really are, without having to lean on the president of the universe, you really are capable of good, just on your own, as you, without anybody around. That you're capable of doing good things. That the good idea buck stops here. Essentially,
I really have to add something here. because I think we actually do something that a lot of Christians don't do when we try to derive our morals. We rely on rational thought, and there's a lot of Christians that throw that away.
True.
And that's, I think, one of the real dangers of being dogmatic and doing what Christians do with their morals.
I might go you one further, and the throwing away of rational thought and adhering to dogma is the first thing people do when they want to get away from their morality. Is that they use this as an excuse to justify, to magic immoral behavior into moral behavior because they've got this rule set. So, do you see that a lot when you go debate these folks? Or
I do to some extent, yeah.
Okay. Any cogent examples for us?
No, not. Maybe I've just suppressed those. Actually, I had one last thought.
Okay.
Do you have time for that? Just cut me off if you
Absolutely.
need to. This is Hume's is-ought problem. And Christians often will toss this out. David Hume, famous philosopher, he said you can't get an ought from an is. And what he meant by that is you have a category of bazillions of is. It is the case that, rocks fall down, or all these just mechanical properties of the universe. Where does the ought come from? Where is it the case I ought to be nice to poor people or children or whatever? And my response is that it is the case that my moral instincts tell me that I ought to do good things. If morals don't come from what is, that is reality, where do they come from? So I just reject that. I think where Hume is making sense is you can't get an absolute ought from an is. So I agree. I don't see any absolutes at all. Show me them if they exist.
Outside of physical laws, in human behavior, there's not a lot of absolutes. Is there really is just I've never been really interested in the idea of strict digital binary stuff when it comes to human experience. Right. There's always, like the idea of left or right, Mike or Joel, which of the 12 doctors or whatever. There's always some gradation there, and that's just human experience. Now, before we break up for the day, I would like to point out that recently on the internet, I have fan art now. Somebody actually, Erica in the UK, actually drew a incredibly accurate representation of me as a puffin. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but
very cool. Well done.
I don't know. I'm dumbfounded and awed, and at how accurate it is in the fact that it's a puffin. And yeah, puffins are one of my favorite animals, and I kind of made it a show
You're
thing.
An inspirational figure.
I try really hard not to be. This is Ask an Atheist. My name is Sam Olvey. With me today was Bob Seidensticker and Joe DiStefano. Our music is by Chris Coleman. Our call screener is Rebecca Friedman. Our production assistants are Darren Garvin, Scott Leopold, and Mike Gillis. Ask an Atheist is an NEDM production. You can leave us a voicemail at 206-420-0997. We're going to be at the office today. We're going to be there in about an hour. Give us some phone calls. This conversation is not over. We will see you guys next week.
Keeping you informed, this is KLAY, Lakewood, Tacoma.